The crimson ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their sleek hulls cutting through the morning sky above New Geneva. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the laboratory window, watching as the alien vessels settled into formation above the city. The Keltharian Empire had arrived, just as the radio broadcast had warned 3 days ago. "Everyone to the basement," Sarah called to her research team, but her voice was drowned out by the thunderous roar of the alien ships activating their tractor beams. Through the reinforced glass, she watched in horror as streams of blue light reached down from the vessels, lifting women from the streets below. The aliens were selective. Only females between the ages of 18 and 40 were being taken. The Keltharians had made their intentions clear in their first transmission to Earth's governments. They needed human women for their breeding programs. Their own species was dying out, their females having lost the ability to reproduce centuries ago due to genetic manipulation gone wrong. Human females, they claimed, were genetically compatible and would serve as surrogates for their survival. Earth's military had tried to negotiate, offering volunteers and alternative solutions. The Keltharian response was swift and brutal. Major cities across the globe were hit simultaneously. The aliens possessed technology far beyond human capabilities: energy shields that deflected missiles, weapons that could level entire city blocks, and ships that moved faster than anything in Earth's arsenal. Sarah ducked as another ship passed overhead, its tractor beam sweeping across the university campus. Through the windows, she could see students and staff running in panic. A group of female graduate students was caught in the blue light, their screams echoing as they were lifted toward the waiting ship. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. These weren't just statistics or casualties of war. These were her students, her colleagues, her friends. The basement of the research facility was crowded with survivors. Professor Williams, the elderly physics department head, was trying to coordinate with military forces on his radio. The news wasn't good. London, Tokyo, New York, and dozens of other major cities were under attack. The pattern was always the same. The Keltharians would arrive, take the women they wanted, and leave behind death and destruction for anyone who tried to resist. "They're treating us like cattle," whispered Dr. Martinez, Sarah's research partner. "Taking our women for breeding stock." Sarah felt a cold rage building in her chest. The Keltharians saw humans as inferior, useful only for their reproductive capabilities. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for resistance, for adaptation, for pure stubborn determination. The aliens might have superior technology, but they didn't understand what they had awakened. The radio crackled to life. "This is General Morrison, U.S. Pacific Command. All military units are to fall back to designated safe zones. We're implementing Protocol 7 immediately. Repeat, Protocol 7 is now in effect." Professor Williams looked puzzled. "What's Protocol 7? Sarah knew. She had heard rumors about it during her time working on classified projects for the Department of Defense. Protocol 7 was the government's last resort: the activation of civilian resistance networks, the distribution of military-grade weapons to anyone willing to fight, and the implementation of guerrilla warfare tactics on a global scale. Outside, the alien ships were beginning to withdraw, their cargo holds full of kidnapped women, but this was just the beginning. Intelligence reports suggested the Keltharians planned to establish permanent bases on Earth, turning the planet into a massive breeding facility. They would be back and in greater numbers. As night fell, Sarah made her way to the surface. The university campus was eerily quiet, littered with debris and burn marks from alien weapons. In the distance, she could see the glow of fires from the city center. But there was something else. Small groups of people moving through the shadows, armed and organized. The resistance was already forming. A figure emerged from behind a damaged building, rifle in hand. It was Marcus Webb, a former Marine who had been working as campus security. His face was grim, but his eyes burned with determination. "Dr. Chen," he said quietly, "we're gathering anyone who wants to fight back. The government's setting up supply drops of weapons, ammunition, communication equipment. They're calling it Operation Defiance." Sarah nodded. Her scientific mind was already working on the problem. The aliens had superior technology, but they had weaknesses too. Their ships relied on energy shields that might have vulnerabilities. Their tractor beams required specific frequencies that could potentially be disrupted. Most importantly, they clearly underestimated human ingenuity and the lengths people would go to protect their loved ones. "What do you need from me?" she asked. Marcus smiled grimly. Everything you know about electromagnetic fields and particle physics. We're going to hit these bastards where it hurts." As they talked, more survivors emerged from hiding. There was Dr. Patel from the engineering department, Lisa Rodriguez from campus maintenance, and dozens of others. Each had lost someone to the alien raiders. Each was ready to fight. The Keltharian Empire had made a critical error in their assessment of humanity. They saw a primitive species with inferior technology, easy to dominate and control. They didn't understand that humans were survivors, adapters, fighters who became more dangerous when cornered. They didn't realize that taking Earth's women wouldn't break human resistance, it would ignite it. Sarah looked up at the stars, where the alien fleet was regrouping in orbit. Tomorrow they would return with reinforcements, expecting to find a broken and defeated population. Instead, they would discover that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their refusal to surrender, even when facing impossible odds. The war for Earth's survival was about to begin, and the Keltharians were about to learn why humanity had clawed their way to the top of their planet's food chain. They were about to discover what happened when you threatened a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. The resistance would start small, but it would grow, and leading that resistance would be people who understood that sometimes survival required becoming something darker, something more dangerous than your enemies could imagine. Elena Vasquez crouched in the ruins of what had once been Chicago's Willis Tower, her modified Barrett M82 rifle resting against the twisted metal frame. Through her scope, she watched the Keltharian patrol moving through the streets below. 3 days had passed since the first wave of attacks, and the aliens had returned with ground forces to secure their new territory. The rifle in her hands was no ordinary weapon. Elena had spent the last 2 days working with Dr. Chen and her team to modify it, replacing standard ammunition with rounds containing electromagnetic pulse charges. The theory was simple. If they could disrupt the aliens' personal shields for even a fraction of a second, conventional weapons might be effective. Elena had been a Marine sniper for 8 years before retiring to work as a police marksman in Chicago. She had logged over 200 confirmed kills in Afghanistan and Iraq, but those enemies had been human. These new targets presented challenges she had never faced. The Keltharians wore advanced body armor that could deflect small arms fire, and their personal energy shields made them nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons, but Elena had something the aliens didn't expect: patience and precision that came from years of training and combat experience. She had studied their patrol patterns for 3 days, learning their routines, identifying their weaknesses. The Keltharians were overconfident, believing their technology made them untouchable. Her radio crackled softly. "Viper, this is Control. Target confirmed. Senior officer, 2 escorts moving north on Franklin." Elena adjusted her position, tracking the target through her scope. The alien commander was taller than the others, his armor more elaborate, with additional shield generators mounted on his shoulders. Taking him down would send a message, but more importantly, it might disrupt their command structure in this sector. She controlled her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow as she entered the meditative state that all great snipers knew. The modified round was loaded, the rifle zeroed at exactly 847 meters. She had 1 shot before the aliens would locate her position and respond with overwhelming force. The commander stopped, apparently receiving a communication through his helmet. Perfect. Elena exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The electromagnetic pulse round struck the alien's primary shield generator, causing a brilliant flash of blue sparks. For exactly 0.3 seconds, his personal shields collapsed. Elena was already working the bolt, chambering a second round, this one conventional armor-piercing. She fired again before the alien could react. The round punched through the commander's chest armor, dropping him instantly. His escort scrambled for cover, but Elena was already moving, sliding down through the building's damaged structure to her predetermined escape route. She had 30 seconds before Keltharian air support would arrive to investigate. Elena's radio burst to life as she reached the subway tunnels beneath the building. "Confirmed kill, Viper. Outstanding work. All units begin Phase 2. Across the city, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. Elena was part of a growing network of resistance fighters, coordinated by a joint command structure that included former military officers, scientists, and civilian leaders. The plan was ambitious: hit the aliens hard and fast at multiple points, then disappear before they could mount an effective response. In the tunnels, Elena met up with her support team. Tommy Martinez, a former Army explosives expert, was grinning despite the dire circumstances. "That was beautiful, Elena. You should have seen their faces when their precious commander went down." "Save the celebration," Elena replied, breaking down her rifle for transport. "They'll adapt quickly. We need to keep moving." The team made their way through the underground passages that connected Chicago's basement levels. Over the past 3 days, engineers and construction workers had been modifying these tunnels, creating a hidden network that allowed resistance fighters to move unseen throughout the city. The aliens controlled the surface, but humanity was learning to fight from below. They emerged at a safe house in an abandoned shopping center. Dr. Chen was waiting with her latest modifications, new ammunition, types and targeting systems designed specifically for fighting Keltharian forces. The scientist had barely slept since the attacks began, working tirelessly to level the technological playing field. "The electromagnetic disruption worked perfectly," Dr. Chen said, examining Elena's rifle. "But they'll upgrade their shields within days. We need to stay ahead of their adaptations." Elena nodded, studying tactical maps spread across a makeshift table. Red marks indicated known alien positions, while blue showed confirmed resistance cell locations. The pattern was becoming clear. The Keltharians were focusing on major population centers, but they were struggling to maintain control over the vast suburban and rural areas. "They're spread too thin," observed Captain Rodriguez, a former Air Force officer who had become the local resistance commander. "They've got superior firepower, but they don't have enough troops to occupy an entire planet." "That's our advantage," Elena agreed. "They're used to conquering civilizations that surrender when faced with superior technology. They don't understand asymmetric warfare." The radio operator looked up from his equipment. "We're getting reports from cells worldwide. London resistance took out 3 patrol units. Tokyo teams destroyed an alien supply depot. Moscow's gone dark, but satellite imagery shows major explosions in the alien-controlled sectors." Elena felt a grim satisfaction. Humanity was doing what it did best, adapting and fighting back against impossible odds. The Keltharians had expected a quick conquest followed by easy occupation. Instead, they were facing the nightmare scenario that had defeated armies throughout human history, a determined population fighting for survival on their home ground. "What's our next target?" Elena asked, checking her equipment. Captain Rodriguez pointed to an area on the map marked with a large red circle. "Intelligence suggests they're establishing a major processing center here, where they're holding the women they've captured. It's heavily defended, but if we can disrupt their operations..." Elena studied the target location. "It would be dangerous, requiring precise coordination between multiple resistance cells. But the thought of the women being held there, treated like breeding stock by an alien empire, filled her with cold determination. "I'll need modified ammunition, better optics, and a team that can keep up," she said. "You'll have whatever you need," Rodriguez promised. "We're also getting word that military units worldwide are going underground, literally and figuratively. Special forces, intelligence operatives, anyone with advanced training is joining the resistance network. The aliens might have taken our cities, but they haven't broken our spirit." As Elena prepared for the next mission, she thought about what the Keltharians had unleashed. They had come to Earth expecting to harvest human women like crops, believing that superior technology would guarantee easy victory. Instead, they had awakened something primal and dangerous in humanity. The survival instinct of a species that had fought its way to dominance on one of the galaxy's most competitive worlds. The aliens possessed advanced weapons and energy shields, but humans possessed something more valuable: the knowledge of how to fight when everything seemed hopeless. Elena chambered another modified round, her eyes already calculating angles and distances for the next target. The Keltharian Empire was about to learn that conquering Earth would require more than superior technology. They would need to defeat a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of war, and who became most dangerous when they had nothing left to lose. 2 weeks after the initial invasion, Elena Vasquez found herself in an abandoned mine shaft 40 kilometers outside Denver, training a group of civilians who had never held a rifle before the aliens arrived. The underground facility had become a central hub for resistance operations in the western United States. connected to similar networks spreading across every continent. Distance to target is everything, Elena explained to her trainees, adjusting the rifle position of Maria Santos, a former kindergarten teacher whose husband had been killed defending their neighborhood. These aliens have advanced targeting systems, but they rely too heavily on technology. They don't understand instinctive shooting. The training program had evolved rapidly as more military personnel joined the resistance. Elena worked alongside Master Sergeant Williams, a former Delta Force operator, and Captain Nakamura, whose Japanese Special Forces background proved invaluable in urban warfare tactics. Together they were creating something unprecedented, a global civilian army, trained in asymmetric warfare. The Keltharians have a weakness in their tactical thinking, explained Captain Nakamura during the morning briefing. They approach warfare like a chess game, with predetermined moves and responses. Humans fight like jazz musicians, improvisation based on feeling and experience. Elena nodded, watching her students practice with their modified weapons. Dr. Chen's team had made remarkable progress in developing anti-alien ammunition. The latest rounds contained not just electromagnetic disruptors, but also thermite charges designed to penetrate Keltharian armor once their shields failed. The mine shaft complex had been expanded to include multiple training areas, workshops, medical facilities, and command centers. Engineers had installed an advanced communication system that connected resistance cells across 6 continents. Former NASA technicians worked alongside high school shop teachers to modify weapons and develop new tactics. Elena called Dr. Chen from her mobile laboratory. "I need you to test the new targeting system." Elena examined the modified scope, impressed by the sophisticated electronics hidden within its compact frame. "What does it do?" "It analyzes Keltharian shield frequencies in real time and automatically adjusts your ammunition's electromagnetic pulse to match," Dr. Chen explained. "The aliens have been upgrading their defenses, but this should stay ahead of their adaptations." The scope represented more than just technological advancement. It was a symbol of human ingenuity under pressure. In just 2 weeks, Earth's scattered scientific community had achieved breakthroughs that would normally take years of research. Desperation and collaboration had accelerated innovation beyond anything previously imagined. Elena tested the new equipment on the firing range, engaging holographic targets programmed to simulate Keltharian movement patterns. The results were encouraging. The targeting system could track multiple aliens simultaneously while calculating optimal firing solutions for each target. "Impressive," she said. "But remember that technology is only as good as the person using it. We need to train people to think like hunters, not soldiers." This philosophy had become central to resistance training. Traditional military tactics were ineffective against the aliens' superior firepower and defensive systems. Instead, they were teaching hunters' instincts, patience, observation, the ability to remain undetected for hours or days before taking a single perfect shot. The radio crackled with an incoming transmission from New Zealand. "Denver base, this is Auckland Cell. Operation Fishhook is complete. Alien supply convoy destroyed, no resistance casualties." Elena smiled grimly. Auckland Cell had been trained by her methods, using sniper teams to eliminate convoy escorts before explosive specialists destroyed the vehicles. The Keltharians were learning that controlling Earth's roads required constant vigilance against enemies who could strike from any direction. "Ma'am," interrupted Private Collins, a young woman who had lost her entire family in the Denver attacks. "We're getting reports of alien reinforcements arriving in orbit. Looks like they're bringing heavier equipment." Elena studied the tactical displays showing satellite imagery of the new alien ships. They were larger than the initial invasion force, with more sophisticated weapon systems and what appeared to be mobile command centers. The Keltharians were adapting to human resistance, bringing tools designed for extended occupation rather than quick conquest. "They're treating this like a real war now," observed Master Sergeant Williams. "That's good and bad. Good because it means we're hurting them. Bad because they're about to escalate." Elena gathered her training cadre for an emergency planning session. The new alien reinforcements would require adjustments to resistance tactics. The Keltharians were learning to expect sniper attacks and had begun deploying counter-sniper systems. "We need to evolve faster than they can adapt," Elena said, studying intelligence reports from around the globe. "What worked 2 weeks ago won't work tomorrow. Dr. Chen had been developing new ammunition types specifically for the enhanced alien armor. The latest rounds use shape-charged penetrators combined with neural disruptors, she explained. If they breach the armor, they should incapacitate rather than kill, which might give us prisoners for interrogation. The concept of taking alien prisoners had been discussed extensively. Intelligence gathering was crucial, but capturing a Keltharian alive required precise shooting and immediate medical support. Elena had been developing protocols for non-lethal takedown techniques. I've been analyzing their psychology through combat footage, added Dr. Patel, the Resistance's chief behavioral analyst. The Keltharians show classic signs of technological dependence. When their equipment fails, they experience significant decision paralysis. This insight was already being incorporated into training. Teams were learning to target alien equipment first, forcing their enemies to fight without technological advantages. The aliens were physically strong but appeared to lack the improvisational skills that humans developed through millennia of conflict. Elena's radio buzzed with a priority transmission from the Global Command Network. All cells, this is Phoenix Base. Intelligence confirms alien construction projects at captured breeding facilities. They're building permanent infrastructure. Timeline has accelerated. The meaning was clear. The Keltharians weren't planning a temporary occupation. They intended to transform Earth into a permanent breeding colony, with human women as livestock. This intelligence sparked something primal in the resistance fighters, a deeper level of determination that went beyond simple survival. Change of plans, Elena announced to her trainees. We're not just fighting for liberation anymore. We're fighting for extinction or evolution. The aliens think they can domesticate humanity. We're going to prove them wrong. The training intensity increased dramatically. Elena pushed her students harder, teaching advanced techniques that would normally require months to master. Former accountants learned to calculate windage and elevation under combat stress. Retired teachers mastered urban camouflage and infiltration techniques. Remember, Elena told them during the final evening briefing, the aliens see us as primitive animals. That's their greatest weakness. They don't understand that sometimes being underestimated is the most powerful weapon you can possess. As night fell over the mountain facility, Elena watched her trainees cleaning their weapons and reviewing tactical manuals. These people had been ordinary civilians just weeks ago. Now they were becoming something the galaxy had never seen. An entire planet's population transformed into guerrilla fighters. The Keltharians had superior technology, numerical advantages, and centuries of military experience, but they had made one critical error in their assessment of humanity. They thought superior firepower could defeat superior motivation. They were about to discover that humans who fight for survival become something beyond ordinary soldiers. They become a force of nature itself, relentless and adaptable beyond any alien understanding. The liberation of the Phoenix complex marked the first major victory against the Keltharian occupation forces. Elena Vasquez positioned herself on a ridge overlooking the massive alien facility, her rifle equipped with Dr. Chen's latest innovations. Below, the complex stretched across 20 square kilometers of former Arizona desert, now transformed into a heavily fortified breeding center, holding over 50,000 human women. Intelligence indicated that this facility was more than just a prison. It was the aliens' primary research center for their genetic compatibility studies. Destroying it would cripple their breeding program and potentially rescue thousands of captives. More importantly, it would prove that human resistance could strike at the heart of Keltharian operations. Overwatch, this is Viper, Elena whispered into her radio. I have eyes on the primary target, confirming 6 guard towers, automated defense systems, and approximately 40 ground units. The operation involved coordinated strikes from 12 resistance cells across 3 states. Elena's role was critical. Neutralize the command structure while assault teams breached the perimeter. The Keltharians had learned to expect sniper attacks and had installed counter-sniper systems. But human ingenuity had found ways around their defenses. All units. This is Phoenix Command, came the voice of General Morrison, who had emerged from hiding to personally coordinate this mission. Remember, we have less than 20 minutes before orbital support arrives. Every second counts. Elena studied her targets through the advanced scope. The Keltharian facility commander was easily identifiable by his elaborate armor and constant communication activity. Taking him down would create chaos in their defensive response, but the shot would be nearly impossible. The alien stood behind reinforced barriers protected by overlapping energy shields. "Viper, this is tech support." Dr. Chen's voice crackled through the radio. "New ammunition loaded into your rifle. These rounds contain quantum disruptors. They should phase through energy barriers for approximately 0.1 seconds before materializing." Elena chambered the experimental round, marveling at the rapid pace of human innovation. 3 weeks ago, quantum physics had been theoretical. Now it was being weaponized by desperate scientists working in underground laboratories. The Keltharians had accelerated human technological development by decades in their attempt to conquer Earth. The attack began with explosions along the facility's eastern perimeter. Tommy Martinez and his demolition team had spent 2 days infiltrating through underground drainage systems, placing charges at key structural points. The blast created the perfect distraction, drawing alien attention away from Elena's position. Through her scope, Elena watched the Keltharian commander emerge from his protected position to coordinate the defensive response. The alien was enormous by human standards, nearly 3 meters tall, with armor that incorporated personal shield generators and advanced targeting systems. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world, making them physically superior to humans in almost every way. Almost every way. What they lacked was human adaptability under pressure. Elena controlled her breathing, calculating distance, wind speed, and the complex physics of shooting a quantum phase projectile. The mathematics involved were beyond normal human comprehension, but combat snipers operated on instinct as much as calculation. She felt the perfect moment approaching, when all variables aligned for an impossible shot, and she squeezed the trigger. The quantum disruptor round phased through 3 layers of energy shielding before materializing inside the alien commander's chest cavity. The result was spectacular. A brilliant flash of purple light as the alien's internal organs were disrupted at the molecular level. The commander collapsed instantly, his sophisticated armor systems sparking and failing as they attempted to compensate for catastrophic internal damage. "Command target eliminated," Elena reported, already working the bolt for her next shot. Defensive coordination collapsing. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Without their commander's central coordination, the Keltharian defenders began responding according to individual initiative rather than unified strategy. Human assault teams exploited this confusion, using tactics that would have been impossible against a properly coordinated defense. Elena shifted her attention to secondary targets, alien technicians operating defensive systems. Each shot was precisely calculated to maximize disruption of enemy operations. The new ammunition proved devastatingly effective, penetrating shields and armor that had previously been invulnerable to human weapons. "Breach Team Alpha, we're through the eastern wall," reported Captain Rodriguez over the radio. "Heavy resistance, but their shields are failing faster than expected." Elena smiled grimly. The aliens' over-reliance on technology was becoming their greatest weakness. When their advanced systems failed, they lacked the improvisational skills that humans developed through centuries of warfare. They fought like machines following programming, while humans fought like predators following instincts. "Viper, priority target," called Dr. Chen from her mobile command post. "Keltharian Orbital Strike Coordinator, Northwest Tower. If he completes his transmission, we'll have energy bombardment in 12 minutes. Elena swung her rifle toward the designated tower, tracking the new target through her scope. The alien was inside a heavily shielded communication center, protected by multiple layers of energy barriers. Even the quantum disruptor rounds might not penetrate that much protection, but Elena had been developing new techniques for impossible shots. Instead of targeting the alien directly, she aimed at the tower's primary power coupling. A single shot disrupted the facility's power grid, causing cascading failures throughout the defensive network. The communication center's shields collapsed, leaving the strike coordinator exposed. Her second shot was conventional armor-piercing, but perfectly placed. The alien fell backward into his equipment, triggering explosions that destroyed the entire communication array. "Orbital strike capability neutralized," Elena reported. "All units, you have full autonomy for the assault." The battle raged for another 15 minutes as human forces systematically dismantled Keltharian defenses. Elena provided overwatch support, eliminating aliens who attempted to reorganize resistance or escape with critical intelligence. Her modified rifle proved devastatingly effective against enemies who had never faced weapons designed specifically to counter their technology. "Facility secured," announced Captain Rodriguez, beginning prisoner evacuation. "Holy Mother of God. Elena, you need to see what they were doing in here." Elena made her way down from the ridge to join the assault teams inside the complex. What she found was worse than anyone had imagined. The Keltharians weren't just using human women for breeding. They were conducting genetic experiments, attempting to create hybrid offspring that combined alien durability with human adaptability. "They're studying us," Dr. Chen said grimly, examining alien research equipment, trying to understand what makes humans so effective at warfare. They want to create soldiers with human instincts but alien physical capabilities. Elena studied the research data displayed on alien screens. The Keltharians had been analyzing human genetic sequences, combat psychology, and neural patterns. They were particularly interested in human stress responses and the ability to function effectively under extreme pressure. "They're afraid of us," Elena realized. "These aren't the actions of a confident conqueror. They're trying to figure out how to defeat something they don't understand." The revelation was staggering. The mighty Keltharian Empire, with technology centuries ahead of human development, was intimidated by human resistance. Their research suggested that no other species in their galactic conquests had demonstrated such adaptability and determination. "All units, this is Phoenix Command." General Morrison's voice carried a note of triumph. "Mission accomplished. Facility destroyed, prisoners liberated, and intelligence gathered. But more importantly, we've proven something today. We've shown that the Keltharian Empire can be defeated." As Elena watched the last of the rescued women being evacuated to safety, she felt a grim satisfaction. The Phoenix Complex operation had been more than a military victory. It was proof that human resistance could strike at the heart of alien operations. The Keltharians might have superior technology, but they were learning that conquering humanity required more than advanced weapons. They were discovering that humans became most dangerous when they had something to protect. And now, with thousands of rescued prisoners spread throughout the resistance network, humanity had something even more powerful than weapons or technology. They had hope. And hope, Elena knew, was the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy when wielded by a species that refused to surrender. 6 weeks after the Phoenix Complex liberation, Elena Vasquez stood in the command center of Underground Base Alpha, watching tactical displays that showed a completely transformed war. The Keltharian Empire had escalated their occupation, bringing in specialized warfare units and siege equipment designed for prolonged planetary conflicts. But humanity had evolved too, and in ways that shocked even their alien enemies. "Intelligence reports confirm it," announced Dr. Chen, her voice carrying a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "The Keltharians have requested reinforcements from their home fleet. They're classifying Earth as a Class 7 resistance world." Elena looked up from her equipment maintenance. "What does that mean?" "According to the alien communications we've intercepted," Dr. Chen continued, "Class 7 is reserved for species that demonstrate unprecedented adaptive warfare capabilities. In their entire galactic empire, only 3 other worlds have ever received that classification." The implications were staggering. The Keltharian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds over centuries of expansion. Humanity was being categorized alongside the galaxy's most formidable warrior species, despite having inferior technology and no spacefaring military. "Ma'am," interrupted communications specialist Parks, "we're receiving reports from resistance cells worldwide. The aliens are implementing new tactics, psychological warfare, enhanced surveillance, and something they're calling cognitive disruption fields." Elena studied the incoming intelligence reports. The Keltharians were using technology designed to interfere with human brain function, attempting to disrupt the decision-making processes that made human fighters so unpredictable. But the technology was having unexpected results. "Look at this," said Dr. Martinez, pointing to neurological scans from volunteers who had been exposed to the alien disruption fields. Instead of impairing cognitive function, the fields are actually enhancing certain neural pathways. It's like they're accidentally giving humans improved reflexes and pattern recognition. Elena shook her head in amazement. Even when the aliens tried to weaken humanity, they somehow made them stronger. It was becoming clear that the Keltharians fundamentally misunderstood how human brains worked under stress. "Viper, you need to see this," called Master Sergeant Williams from the intelligence section. "We've intercepted internal Keltharian military communications. They're having problems we never expected." Elena joined him at the communication terminal, where alien transmissions had been translated by teams of linguists working around the clock. The messages revealed a shocking development. The Keltharian military was experiencing unprecedented desertion rates among their ground forces. "They're afraid to fight us," Williams explained. "Their soldiers are requesting transfers away from Earth assignments. Some are even going AWOL, rather than face human resistance." The psychological impact of human warfare was something the aliens had never encountered. Their previous conquests had involved species that either surrendered quickly or fought according to predictable patterns. Humans fought like nothing else in their experience, with creativity, desperation, and an apparent disregard for logical tactical doctrine. Elena's radio crackled with an incoming transmission from the European Resistance Network. "Underground Alpha, this is London base. Operation Phantom is complete. 3 Keltharian command ships destroyed using modified civilian aircraft. No human casualties." The success of Operation Phantom represented a new evolution in human tactics. Civilian pilots had volunteered to fly planes loaded with Dr. Chen's latest explosive devices, using stealth modifications to approach alien ships before detonating proximity charges. The Keltharians hadn't expected kamikaze attacks from a species they considered too primitive for such tactics. "Elena," Dr. Chen approached with a tablet displaying her latest research. "I've been analyzing the genetic samples we recovered from Phoenix Complex. The aliens were studying something specific about human DNA, sequences related to stress response and neural plasticity." Elena examined the data, though most of the scientific details were beyond her expertise. "What did they find?" "Humans have genetic adaptations that no other known species possesses," Dr. Chen explained. "Our brains literally rewire themselves under combat stress, becoming more efficient at pattern recognition and threat assessment. The Keltharians have never encountered anything like it. This explained why human resistance had been so effective. While alien soldiers fought according to training and technological support, human fighters were actually becoming better warriors the longer the conflict continued. Each battle taught them new skills, new ways to overcome alien advantages. There's more, Dr. Chen continued. The research suggests that human psychological resilience is far beyond normal galactic standards. Most species break under prolonged stress. Humans apparently become stronger. Elena thought about her own transformation over the past weeks. She had killed more aliens than she could count, developed tactics that seemed impossible even to herself, and somehow maintained her sanity despite witnessing horrors that should have broken her mind. Maybe there was something uniquely human about the ability to adapt to nightmare circumstances. "All units, priority alert," announced General Morrison over the command network. "Satellite reconnaissance confirms massive Keltharian fleet movements. They're bringing in siege equipment designed for extended planetary bombardment." Elena studied the satellite imagery showing new alien ships entering Earth's orbit. These vessels were enormous, clearly designed for destroying planetary infrastructure rather than quick conquest. The Keltharians were abandoning their original plan of a clean occupation in favor of a war of attrition. "They're scared," Elena realized. "They'd rather destroy Earth than continue fighting us on the ground." "That's their mistake," added Captain Rodriguez, who had arrived from the Western Resistance Network. "They still don't understand what they're fighting. Humans don't break under pressure. We thrive on it." The truth of that statement was becoming evident throughout the global resistance. Reports flooded in daily of impossible victories achieved by human fighters, who should have been overwhelmed by superior alien forces. Farmers were building weapons from agricultural equipment. Teenagers were developing communication networks that even military intelligence found impressive. "Ma'am," called the communications operator, "we're receiving a transmission from space. It's from the Keltharian fleet commander." Elena moved to the communication console where alien words were being translated in real time. The message was formal, following diplomatic protocols that seemed absurd given the circumstances. "To the military leaders of the human resistance," the translation read, "the Keltharian Empire offers terms for negotiated settlement. We acknowledge your species' combat effectiveness and propose territorial partition of your world. Elena stared at the message in disbelief. An empire that had conquered dozens of worlds was offering to negotiate with humans after just 6 weeks of resistance. They weren't just afraid, they were desperate. Send a response, Elena told the communications operator.
Tell them humanity's terms are simple. Complete withdrawal from Earth, return of all prisoners,
and reparations for damage caused during their invasion. Ma'am, the operator hesitated. Those are essentially surrender terms. Exactly, Elena replied. Let them know that humans don't negotiate from positions of weakness. As the message was transmitted, Elena realized that the war had reached a turning point. The Keltharians had come to Earth expecting easy conquest of a primitive species. Instead, they had encountered something unprecedented in galactic history, a world-spanning population of natural-born warriors who became more dangerous under pressure. The aliens possessed superior technology, but humans possessed something more valuable, the ability to turn any situation into an advantage. They had underestimated a species that had spent millennia fighting for survival on one of the galaxy's most competitive worlds. Elena, Dr. Chen approached with her latest analysis. I've been studying the psychological profiles of Keltharian soldiers. They show classic signs of species-wide trauma responses. Human warfare is unlike anything in their evolutionary experience. Elena nodded, understanding the implications. Humanity was doing more than winning battles. They were breaking the minds of enemies who had never faced such relentless, creative opposition. The Keltharians were learning that conquering Earth meant fighting a species that treated warfare as an art form. The war was far from over, but Elena could see its eventual outcome. The aliens might have started this conflict, but humans would finish it. And when they did, the galaxy would know that Earth was defended by something more dangerous than any technology, a species that never learned how to surrender. The liberation of Earth's orbital space began at exactly 0347 hours Greenwich Mean Time, when Elena Vasquez fired the first shot of Operation Skyfall from a position inside the International Space Station's abandoned hull. Her modified rifle, now equipped with zero-gravity compensation systems and void-capable ammunition, had been secretly transported to orbit by teams of former astronauts and aerospace engineers who had joined the resistance. Target acquired, Elena whispered into her communications array, watching through her scope as Keltharian ships moved in their predictable patrol patterns. Primary command vessel bearing 270 relative, distance approximately 4,000 meters. The operation was humanity's most ambitious undertaking yet, a coordinated assault on the alien fleet using improvised spacecraft, modified missiles, and a network of orbital platforms that had been secretly constructed over the past month. Earth's space program had been declared dead after the invasion, but human ingenuity had found ways to reach the stars even under alien occupation. All units, this is Control, came the voice of Admiral Sarah Harrison, former commander of the U.S. Space Force, who had emerged from hiding to lead this impossible mission. Remember, we have exactly 90 minutes before the main fleet realizes what's happening. Every shot counts. Elena had trained extensively for zero-gravity combat, but the reality exceeded all simulations. In the vacuum of space, her rifle's recoil sent her drifting backward against her restraint system. The modified ammunition had been designed specifically for space warfare, self-guiding projectiles that could track and penetrate alien ship hulls. Through her scope, Elena watched her first shot streak across the void, its guidance system adjusting course to compensate for the target's movement. The projectile struck the command ship's communication array with devastating precision, creating a brilliant flash of sparks and debris. The alien vessel immediately began tumbling, its navigation systems compromised. Direct hit on primary target, Elena reported. Command ship disabled. Around Earth's orbital space, similar attacks were occurring simultaneously. Resistance fighters who had never left Earth's surface were now operating captured alien shuttles, flying missions that would have been impossible for trained astronauts just months ago. The transformation was remarkable. Ordinary humans becoming space warriors through necessity and determination. Viper, this is Orbital Team 7, crackled a transmission from nearby space. We've successfully infiltrated the supply depot on the moon. Beginning demolition sequence now, Elena smiled grimly. The lunar operation represented the most audacious aspect of Skyfall. Resistance teams had somehow reached the moon and infiltrated the Keltharian supply base established there. The logistics involved were staggering, requiring improvised spacecraft, life support systems, and landing procedures developed entirely from captured alien technology. Her radio buzzed with reports from across the solar system. Jupiter Station Base, this is Asteroid Belt Team 3. Mining charges placed successfully. Keltharian fuel depot will be destroyed in 10 minutes. The scope of human expansion was almost unbelievable. In just 2 months, resistance fighters had established operations throughout the inner solar system, using modified mining equipment and commandeered alien vessels to strike at targets millions of kilometers from Earth. The Keltharians had never faced an enemy capable of such rapid space-based expansion. Elena, Dr. Chen's voice came through from Earth's surface. We're receiving intelligence from the captured communications array. The aliens are calling for emergency evacuation protocols. They're abandoning the outer colonies. Elena adjusted her position to target another alien vessel, this one attempting to retreat toward the outer system. The Keltharians were learning that space provided no safety from human determination. Their technological advantages meant nothing when humans could adapt captured equipment faster than aliens could develop countermeasures. All teams, be advised, Admiral Harrison announced. Keltharian main fleet is beginning to withdraw from Earth orbit. Repeat, the enemy is retreating. Through her scope, Elena watched as massive alien battleships began accelerating away from Earth, their formation breaking apart as individual captains prioritized escape over coordinated withdrawal. The psychological impact of human space-based resistance had achieved something that ground warfare couldn't. It had broken the aliens' will to continue the occupation. Viper, priority target, called the tactical coordinator. Keltharian transport ship attempting to escape with human prisoners. Bearing 150 relative, range 6,000 meters. Elena tracked the designated target, her enhanced scope identifying the vessel's configuration. This was one of the ships used to transport captured women to alien breeding facilities. The thought of those prisoners being taken to some distant world filled her with cold determination. The transport ship was heavily shielded and moving at high velocity, making it an extremely difficult target. But Elena had developed techniques for impossible shots during her weeks of space-based training. She calculated trajectory, velocity, and the complex physics of zero-gravity ballistics. Her shot was perfect, striking the transport's engine array and causing a cascade failure that disabled the ship's propulsion systems. The vessel began drifting helplessly, unable to escape Earth's gravity well. Transport disabled, Elena reported. Boarding teams, you have clearance for prisoner extraction. Within minutes, former Special Forces operators using modified EVA suits had reached the disabled transport. Their reports were encouraging. Over 200 human prisoners rescued, along with intelligence data that revealed the locations of other alien facilities throughout the galaxy. Elena, Admiral Harrison's voice carried a note of amazement. We're receiving surrender offers from individual Keltharian ships. They're asking for safe passage out of the solar system in exchange for releasing all human prisoners. Elena considered the implications. The mighty Keltharian Empire, which had conquered hundreds of worlds, was offering to surrender after just 2 months of human resistance. The psychological transformation was complete, from confident conquerors to demoralized refugees seeking escape. Patch me through to the alien fleet commander, Elena requested. After a moment, her communications array crackled with an alien voice speaking through translation software. Human sniper, this is Fleet Commander Zeth Keller. Your species has demonstrated combat capabilities beyond our projections. We request negotiated withdrawal. Elena's response was calm but firm. Commander, humanity's terms remain unchanged. Complete withdrawal from Earth, return of all prisoners, and reparations for damages. You have 24 hours to comply. Human warrior. The alien's voice carried what sounded like respect. Your species fights unlike anything in our experience. We acknowledge your superiority in warfare and accept your terms. The transmission ended, leaving Elena floating in the cosmic silence of space. Around her, the remnants of the Keltharian fleet were beginning an organized retreat, their ships accelerating toward the outer system and eventually toward hyperspace jump points. All teams, this is Control, Admiral Harrison announced. Operation Skyfall is complete. Keltharian forces are withdrawing from Earth orbit. Prisoner transports are being escorted to safe zones for processing. Elena felt a profound sense of satisfaction as she watched the last alien ships disappear into the starfield. Humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had defeated a technologically superior empire through pure determination and adaptive warfare. Viper, you need to see this. Dr. Chen's voice came through with excitement. We're intercepting Keltharian communications to their home fleet. They're declaring Earth a forbidden world. They're telling their entire empire to avoid human space. Elena smiled as she began, securing her equipment for the return to Earth. The Keltharians weren't just retreating, they were ensuring that no other alien force would make the mistake of challenging humanity. Earth would be marked as the domain of a species too dangerous to conquer. Elena, Admiral Harrison's voice carried a mixture of pride and disbelief. Preliminary reports suggest that news of human resistance is spreading throughout Keltharian space. Other conquered worlds are beginning their own rebellions using tactics learned from our example. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just won their freedom. They had inspired galactic revolution against an empire that had oppressed countless species for centuries. Earth had become a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy. As Elena prepared for her return to Earth's surface, she realized that the war had transformed humanity in ways that went far beyond military victory. They had proven themselves capable of defending their world against any threat, regardless of technological disparity. The Keltharian Empire had come to harvest human women for breeding stock. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the galaxy, a species that turned every disadvantage into an advantage, every attack into an opportunity to grow stronger. 3 months after the Keltharian withdrawal from Earth, Elena Vasquez stood in the United Nations General Assembly, addressing representatives from 47 worlds that had contacted Earth seeking assistance in their own liberation struggles. The assembly hall had been hastily rebuilt after the alien attacks, but now it served as the headquarters for something unprecedented in galactic history, the Human Liberation Alliance. The Keltharian Empire's greatest weakness, Elena explained to the assembled alien diplomats, was their belief that technological superiority guaranteed military victory. They never understood that warfare is fundamentally about adaptation, creativity, and the will to survive. The audience included species from across the galaxy, many bearing the scars of centuries under Keltharian rule. They had come to Earth seeking the knowledge that had allowed humanity to achieve the impossible, defeating an empire that commanded resources from hundreds of worlds. Dr. Chen stepped forward to present the technical analysis that had become the foundation of anti-Keltharian resistance. Our studies of captured alien equipment revealed critical vulnerabilities in their defensive systems. More importantly, we discovered that their military doctrine hasn't evolved in over 500 years. They became too dependent on overwhelming force and neglected tactical innovation. Elena watched the alien delegates absorbing this information with obvious hope. These were species that had given up on freedom decades or centuries ago, accepting subjugation as inevitable. The human example had shown them that resistance was possible, even against impossible odds. "Ma'am," interrupted General Morrison, approaching with a tablet displaying the latest intelligence reports. "We're receiving confirmation from the Andromedal sector. The rebellion there has succeeded. 3 Keltharian garrison fleets have surrendered, and 7 worlds have declared independence." Elena nodded, feeling a grim satisfaction. The revolution that had begun with a sniper's bullet was now spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had forgotten how to fight were rediscovering their warrior heritage, inspired by human tactics and determination. The key, Elena continued her presentation, is understanding that every species has unique advantages that can be weaponized against occupying forces. Humans succeeded because we specialized in asymmetric warfare, but other species have different strengths that can be equally effective. She gestured to a tactical display showing resistance operations across multiple star systems. The Valonians used their natural telepathic abilities to coordinate planet-wide uprisings. The Thrakari leveraged their underground tunnel networks to create undetectable supply lines. The Zephyrians employed their atmospheric manipulation capabilities to ground Keltharian air support. Each species was learning to fight according to their unique biological and cultural advantages, guided by human principles of adaptive warfare. The Keltharian Empire, which had maintained control through standardized suppression techniques, was completely unprepared for such diverse resistance methods. Elena, Dr. Chen approached with her latest analysis. We've intercepted communications from the Keltharian homeworlds. Their government is in complete chaos. Military commanders are refusing deployment orders and civilian populations are demanding peace negotiations. Elena studied the intelligence reports with amazement. The empire that had conquered half the galaxy was collapsing from within, as news of successful rebellions destroyed their aura of invincibility. Species that had served the Keltharians for generations were questioning their loyalty. "Ma'am," called Communications Specialist Parks, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Keltharian Supreme Council. They're requesting a formal audience with human leadership." Elena exchanged glances with General Morrison and Admiral Harrison. The aliens who had dismissed humanity as primitive livestock were now seeking an audience with their former victims. The transformation was complete, from conquerors to supplicants in just 3 months. Patch them through, Elena decided. The main display activated, showing the Keltharian Supreme Council in their distant capital world. The alien leaders appeared haggard and desperate, their elaborate robes and ceremonial armor unable to hide their obvious fear. The sight of these once mighty rulers reduced to pleading with humans was profoundly satisfying. Human leaders, the Supreme Chancellor spoke through translation systems. The Keltharian Empire formally requests immediate cessation of hostilities and negotiation of comprehensive peace terms. Elena stepped forward, representing not just Earth but the growing alliance of liberated worlds. "Chancellor, humanity is prepared to discuss peace, but our terms have evolved. Since your withdrawal from Earth, we now speak for 47 worlds that have achieved independence through resistance operations." The alien's expression showed shock at this development. "We were not aware that human influence had expanded beyond your home system." "That's your problem," Elena replied coldly. "You never understood what you were fighting. Humans don't just defend ourselves, we help others defend themselves. Your empire's reign of terror ends now." General Morrison stepped forward with a formal document. "These are our terms. Complete dismantling of the Keltharian military, conversion of your industrial capacity to peaceful purposes, reparations to all conquered worlds, and establishment of galactic councils to prevent future imperial expansion." The Supreme Chancellor studied the terms with obvious dismay. These conditions would effectively end Keltharian civilization as we know it. "No," Elena corrected. "They would end Keltharian imperialism. Your people can continue to exist peacefully, but your days of conquering other species are finished." Dr. Chen added the scientific perspective that had become crucial to the negotiations. "Our analysis suggests that your empire's collapse was inevitable once you encountered effective resistance. Your military doctrine was fundamentally flawed, based on technological intimidation rather than tactical superiority." The truth was evident in the intelligence they had gathered. The Keltharian Empire had grown lazy during centuries of easy conquests, never developing the adaptive capabilities necessary for fighting determined opposition. When they finally encountered resistance, they were completely unprepared. Human Elena Vasquez, the Supreme Chancellor, addressed her directly. "Our military analysis indicates that your personal actions were instrumental in beginning our defeat. How did one individual achieve such strategic impact?" Elena considered the question carefully. "I did what humans do. I adapted to circumstances and refused to accept defeat. Your soldiers fought according to programming. Human fighters fight according to instinct and experience." The fundamental difference was becoming clear to everyone involved. The Keltharians had created a military machine designed for overwhelming inferior opponents, but it collapsed when faced with enemies who became stronger under pressure. "Supreme Chancellor," Admiral Harrison interjected, "our terms are non-negotiable. You have 48 hours to begin implementation, or the liberation campaigns will expand to your core worlds." The threat was not empty. Human-trained resistance forces were already operating within Keltharian space, and several core worlds had reported uprising activity. The Empire's former strength had become its weakness. The very infrastructure they had used to control their territories was now being turned against them. "We accept your terms," the Supreme Chancellor said quietly. "The Keltharian Empire formally surrenders to the Human Liberation Alliance." Elena felt a profound sense of completion as the transmission ended. The war that had begun with alien ships kidnapping human women had ended with the surrender of a galactic empire. But more importantly, it had sparked a revolution that would free countless species from centuries of oppression. "Ma'am," General Morrison approached with the latest reports, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. 63 additional worlds have declared independence in the last hour. The Keltharian Empire is effectively finished." Elena walked to the window overlooking New York Harbor, where ships from dozens of worlds were arriving daily, bringing refugees and diplomats seeking to join the growing alliance. The skyline bore scars from the alien attacks, but construction crews were already rebuilding with improvements that incorporated both human and alien technologies. "Elena," Dr. Chen joined her at the window, "I've been analyzing the long-term implications of what we've accomplished. Humanity has fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. We've proven that technological superiority doesn't guarantee survival." Elena nodded, watching as alien and human children played together in the refugee camps below. The war had ended, but its consequences would shape galactic civilization for millennia to come. Humanity had emerged not just as survivors, but as leaders of a new era based on cooperation rather than domination. "We did more than win a war," Elena realized. "We changed the galaxy's understanding of what's possible when people refuse to surrender." The Keltharian Empire had come to Earth seeking breeding stock to continue their species. Instead, they had encountered something that would outlast any empire: the human spirit, which transformed every challenge into an opportunity for growth. As Elena prepared for the next phase of building galactic peace, she understood that humanity's greatest,